Okay, we're gonna call the October 30th, Halloween Eve, meeting of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission to order. Thank you for coming, all. And we'll get right into it. Did everyone have a chance to read the meeting minutes of September meeting?
Yep.
Any comments, questions?
One change has already been made.
Okay.
What change was that?
My correct name.
The correct name?
Wow.
They had combined Amanda and my names together, so we moved.
What did we come up with?
Amanda Nelson.
Sorry.
With that amendment, I make a motion to accept the meetings then as so amended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, all right. Review and approval of bills and expenses. What do we got for this month?
Let's see, we have weed treatment, Solitude, $850. We have expenses for the drawdown letters, labels, $35.12. Envelopes, $19.09. And letters sent to Grafton and Shrewsbury residents is $533.80 for a total of $1,438.01.
Okay, cool. The 850, is that for testing or mail? Is that all mail?
That was a weed treatment. That
That
was
was
like
actually
the
a
last part of it.
Oh,
I think
the
it
Lotus.
was the Flint Pond portion, maybe?
Yeah, the Lotus, all right. Okay. All right, any questions besides that one? Comments? All those in favor? Oh, we have a motion. We don't have to approve them, right?
Motion to accept?
Motion to accept? All those in favor?
Second?
Second, okay.
Second?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving right along, okay.
Could have done it just over 16 minutes.
Oh, I guess one more thing I could probably mention is that I guess all the letters, all the monies were received from the people at
Newton Pond?
Newton Pond.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's important. Thank you very much, you all. That was helpful. And, you know, a quick comment from me is in my time, is basically that, you know, that the lake seems to be winding down. It's been rainy and stuff, but it's been very still and beautiful out there. It's been very tranquil the last few days on Lake Quinsigamond, so it's kind of cool to see that. I took a walk around Lake Park yesterday, and it was really nice. So that's good, and we'll talk more about the rest of the stuff down the list here. So that's it for me. Mr. Pica.
So maybe we can accentuate it. The drawdown's going to begin, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, on 11/1/19?
I was going to surprise everybody at the lake management part of it, but
Ruined the surprise.
now that we are, yeah, it's going to go down to first. Pulling the plug.
Some people may be interested to know it's relative to the flow of water from, for instance, rainstorms during that time, but it'll take probably about, 3 to 4 weeks to get down to. Might generally be for a while, then the level, is that correct? Some people might want to know how long it's going to take.
Right, but again, we're gonna go over that at the management
Okay,
part,
all right.
but that's fine. I can tell you this, what they do is they put it down a couple inches at a time, so we're not, you know, taking out North Grafton with the river. So basically, it'll go down. Usually, you're right. It probably takes about 3 to 4 weeks, and it's down to the winter pool, and that's depending on, you know, what we have for you know, rain events and whatnot. It's been pretty wet this month, so it's actually pretty high right now. It was high, and then it went down a little bit. Now it's high again. So, but it's not going to be high for long.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up, Mr. Chair, I understand some people at Hovey Pond have some interest in that in terms of how it's going to impact the Hovey Pond and the dam down there, so.
Okay.
Other
Is
than
there
that,
a
Mr.
specific interest in from Hubby?
Oh, can I
Yes,
add
you
a
may.
comment to that? We sent letters to Hovey Pond, because the Grafton clerk, when we asked for the labels, asked about that.
Yes.
So I wasn't really sure, so I figured send them the letter as well, So that's why we got a couple
Yeah,
questions about
Hovey
it.
Pond is defined, not just as the watershed, it's defined actually in our, that's our southernmost border in terms of a defined pond. So, obviously the watershed goes beyond that, but, you know, that's, and that's something that the last time we changed you know, our legislation, they asked for that specific thing, as, you know, we wanna know, you know, where it is at the southern part of it, so that's what came up. And that'll come back again, we'll talk about this in lake management, because Hovey's gonna be on this subject, so.
Other than that, Mr. Chair, activity in the lake is down about 80%, but it was a nice weekend. There was some boats out there and enjoying themselves. Another observation I've heard from a couple people and from checking it out myself, it appears that the bald eagles may be back rebuilding their nest on Drake Island. So I had a report of seeing eagles flying around with twigs in their talons and taking a scope over to the island. It looks like the nest is being rebuilt, from what I see. Other than that, Mr. Chair, that's it for the time being.
All right, I thought they were moving it to Blake Island.
Who knows, maybe there'll be more eagles.
All right, so, not that close probably though, right? So, okay, great. Officer Valieri.
Just a couple things. All the safety buoys have been removed from the lake this week and stored for the season. The Shrewsbury Police boat's coming out next week. We've been keeping it in because of the mild weather, so we've been fortunate enough to do so this year. EPO has taken their boat out for the season, and next year Officer Amato is going to be the primary liaison for the police department. I'll fill in here and there. He wants to take on some more responsibility with the lake, so we're going to let him do that. And that's all I have to report.
Nice. The buoys, any maintenance we need to do, you think, or
No, I
how
still
they
have-
fare?
They're doing okay. I may put new labels on a couple of them, which I still have left over from what we purchased a couple of years ago.
Okay,
And I still have 3 brand new ones in the boathouse that we haven't touched yet. So I'm just going to use them when we need them.
okay, we're in good shape then,
Yes.
as far as that goes. Because one never went up in the Shrewsbury Cove, what's the South Bay? You know where the rock pile is down right at the end of
Before Half Moon Cove, or
Yeah, before Half Moon Cove.
one of the residents usually puts one out there, but I guess
Yeah, it wasn't there
this
all
year.
season, yeah.
So we'll have to address that next year.
All right, cool.
And Mike, you put one out down in the.
The commission's had a buoy at the entrance to the Half Moon Cove for a number of
Yeah.
years, and I have taken the initiative to both put it out and take it back in seasonally.
Okay.
It sits on the shore on my property, pretty much right at the gap, where 40 or 50 feet from there, it gets returned.
Does that need to be re-lettered or anything like that? New stickers?
Somebody was nice enough to put a new sticker on it this past spring. It's getting worn, but it's probably still good for another season or two. I've had to replace the weights and the holding rope mechanism 3 times over the last 8 years. And that just with wave action happens, so I notice it's gone. I go out in my boat, I find it, I bring it back, I put a new rope on it and tie it to the concrete blocks that effectively keep it in place. So right now, we're good for the time being.
Okay, if there's any that need to be addressed, then people can let us know. If there's a certain area somebody wants one put to, we can help out with that. Okay?
Great, thank you. Yeah, if anyone at home is responsible for these buoys, first, thank you for doing that, and second, if you see a place where where safety is an issue, we're concerned, that please let us know in case we're missing something. I can think of a couple. We'll talk about that after. Captain Steele. I'm sorry, you're all set.
Also,
I have no report.
Okay. Fair enough. Mr. Polito.
No report.
Also,
Emery. Huh?
also no
No
report.
report? Amanda?
That'd be me.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got mixed up with Bill.
I'm gonna break the tradition, I have just a couple of things to say. There's obviously less rowing activity in the lake for a number of reasons. It's colder, it's really been foggy mornings, it's raining. There are fewer races for people to keep practicing too, and we've had some really gusty mornings, so most of the singles are off. There are still some 8s and 4s. There's one last rowing activity by the Quinsigamond Rowing Club this Saturday, and then the last of the official activities on the water for the year are over.
Okay.
And I guess the docks are coming out on something like the 16th?
Yes.
At Donahue.
Right.
Right.
And the state boat ramp.
Corzini.
Okay,
Yes.
the Corzini, oh, Corzini, the
Yeah,
ramp's.
so both
Yeah.
locations will be out.
On the 16th,
Yes.
well, so the public would know, November 16th, the Corzini boat ramps will be out.
The docks there will be on.
Docks.
Docks,
still use the
not the
ramp.
ramp,
Right.
yeah.
Then-
My
then
apologies.
they'll take the
Still
ramp.
drive into the water if you want.
Yeah,
That's it.
okay, cool. So that's why the buoys are still out? The course buoys are still out on the south side?
I don't believe they still are.
They were yesterday.
They are.
Okay,
They are, yeah.
Yeah, they're all.
Couldn't see them in the fog.
okay, all right. Yeah, the few mornings I went down myself, that it was so foggy, I decided that if you couldn't see the other side of the lake, I'm not going out.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Is the event in that direction? This
It's
weekend?
the snake, it's similar to the snake race, it's the full length of the lake.
Okay, so
From
it goes
the
down.
last island up to the Donahue Boathouse.
Okay, good. It's supposed to be fairly good weather, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday's supposed to be
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
But one of the real problems now is I personally don't like to row in the dark, and it's, if you wanna go out
Yeah.
early now, it's dark.
Yeah,
That's gonna change this weekend.
Yes.
right. And you have light, if
It's gonna be
whoever
dark
is rowing in the
Right.
dark, they have lights on their boats?
Yes, you're required to have lights.
Okay. Great, thanks for the update. Any other, anything else?
No.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
I would bet that that would be a beautiful time to take photographs, though, in the foggy mornings.
Yeah, except the last time, this week I saw it so foggy one morning that it was like 8 years ago, the last time it was that foggy. You couldn't see more than 20 feet, so you wouldn't get much in your photo.
And when you're sitting in the boat, you're only like 3 feet tall, so you're not up over the phone. But it is beautiful, you're right.
Plus there's fog monsters
That-
too.
If I can interject a point
Yep.
here, it's interesting, when it's perfectly still, cold air meets the hot water, you got 2 feet of fog, still over the lake, and so what you see is people heads going by, you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
see the boat. But if it's windy, which it has been the last couple of weeks, that new cold air pushes the fog up like into 30-foot high clouds.
Yeah.
And the new cold air creates new fog, and so you literally get 30 feet high, and it's like you disappear into the clouds going 20 or 50 feet, and that's just not safe.
So it's just like a big fog machine, yeah. Do you, you know, as a group, as an organization, do you put out a warning, and like a small craft warning, like, you know, it's a fog warning, like, you don't go out there, or?
Generally, there are 2 accepted rules. The first is that if you can't see the other side of the lake where the Donahue Boathouse is, and it's
Yeah.
very narrow,
Yeah,
extremely clearly, just no one goes out in the water.
yeah,
The second is, as soon as the sum of the water temperature and the air temperature equals 80 degrees Fahrenheit, then it's the 4-oar rule, i.e. you can have a 4 out there, or you can have an 8, or you need 2 singles.
okay. Is that for, so you have a
Yeah, for
group?
safety. So
Yeah.
there'll be more than one person out at a time.
All right, okay, good to know. Yeah. Okay, so, when it's all done, we'll move on to the update for the lake management plan. Mike has said some of it, the big thing is we're gonna start the drawdown on the 1st. So if you have any boats in there, you probably should start thinking about bringing them over, especially if you're south of the Stringer Dam and you can't get the other way. And you have to come out of Flint, so, because that ramp gets, you know, unnavigable at about, I'm gonna say, 18 inches of down from the normal pool, so and that'll happen within the next 3 weeks. So just keep an eye on for that. And we did do a test, and I don't recall if we talked in length about this at the last meeting, but they tested Flint and they tested Hovey Pond. So, sorry, they tested Newton Pond and Hovey Pond. I keep saying Flint instead of Newton. Hovey Pond has a fair crop of not Eurasian milfoil, but the other leaf milfoil in it. So that's something we're going to have to address. Frankly, I was surprised there wasn't more stuff in the so it is a testament that we're the stuff the Eurasian milfoil and fanwort, which we have a lot of in Flint Pond and the Grafton part of Flint Pond. I guess we're doing a fairly good job of managing that, although it still comes up in a big crop every year. On the other side of the pond, and I did bring this up last month, is that we've done a pretty good job, and I think next year is going to be spot treatments on Flag and Flint Pond proper, so that's a good thing, and we'll see what happens with the lotus. Newton Pond has a big crop of both Eurasian milfoil and fanwort. I think there's curly pond leaf in there, and variable leaf milfoil, Eurasian milfoil, and fanwort in there. So it's filled with it. So that's something that we have to look at and address, and we'll approach the town and see what they want to do. They control the dam, so we have to figure that out, and then work with those guys to get that thing taken care of. So, and maybe hopefully that we can incorporate that into whatever treatment we're doing, so we can save everybody money. Most of our funding is coming from the town anyway, so that's kind of what they're looking at doing. And the buoys are out, so that's a good thing. And I think over the winter, the goal is to kind of figure out a better way to manage the safety of the lake next year, because of all the years that I've been on Lake Quinsigamond, I think for me, this has been the most visibly dangerous time to be out there in any given weekend. And albeit that the law enforcement has, they have resource restrictions and things like that. So I'd like to work with all the communities to kind of see if we can bolster that up and find out what we need to do to make that better. We're having some issues even on the land. At Oak Island, for example, Oak Island is, on any given Sunday, there's 30 or 40 people, and they're drinking and cooking out and swimming at the beach, and they're doing all the stuff that the signs say not to do. They have a latrine set up, complete with rolls of toilet paper out into the woods. So it's becoming an issue. If the town decided to open it up as a park, that'd be one thing, and whatever. But if it's not going to be that, then I don't think it's safe to be doing what they're doing. So and they're beaching boats on the thing. It gets crazy. And I know that law enforcement has gone down there and dealt with it, and it seems like you empty the pail out and it's filled back up again, like 2 hours later. So we have to figure out what's going on with that. But that's certainly one of the things that I want to keep up. We've been very, very fortunate with the amount of people that we have using Lake Quinsigamond, and especially with the amount of the variable uses we have at Lake Quinsigamond. It's like every kind of water activity or recreation that you can think of out here. So we're fortunate so far, knock on wood, that we haven't had any major incidents out there. But I think it's only going to be a matter of time. It doesn't seem to be getting any better. It seems to be getting more busy. So that's my 2 cents worth on that. Any questions, comments? No? Okay. So, moving on to an update from Jacqueline Burmeister. Hey, Jacqueline, thank you.
Few things for everyone. First are our lake reports. Thanks. Pass it around. And then I have some other things that I'll leave up here for everyone as well. I'm Jacqueline Burmeister, City of Worcester Department of Public Works, Lakes and Ponds Program. So first thing I did get the bill from ESS for the vegetation mapping, and so that is getting paid. I think it was $5,700 or so for the vegetation mapping as part of the tracking the invasive aquatic plant management plan.
Thank you very much.
So we're all set with that. The next thing was I took a walk with the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Wildlife up Coal Mine Brook and Poor Farm Brook. About 2 weeks ago, we had received a report about the brown trout in that stream. It is, parts of it are designated the cold water fishery, so we just wanted to go up there and take a look for ourselves and see just what the state of the brooks were from the perspective of fish and wildlife. And for the most part, he was pretty happy with the stream for an urban stream. There are some pictures on the lake report, the first two. The first one is of Coal Mine Brook. You can see that there is some erosion. This is very common in urban streams when there's a large catchment area for runoff. So during heavy rains, a lot of water is coming down that really quickly, so there is some erosion that happens. However, it's not as severe as he has seen in other places. The second photo there is of a culvert underneath the Notre Dame property. There is a road that crosses through that over Coal Mine Brook, and it's a little bit washed out in the bottom of it, which causes the water to go under the actual culvert pipe, and that is causing the drop of the water going into the pool on the other side to be less severe. And there were some concerns from a private consultant that this was in fact detrimental to the fish population there. And so we were talking with Fish and Wildlife for a little while, and what they would like to do is in the summer of next year, they're gonna go out and do some fish shocking. So this is a process which they do. It's not harmful to the fish. They stun them so that they could count them and take a survey of them. And they have past surveys over the last few decades, but they could compare it to kind of get an idea of how is this fish population doing over time. It's a good indicator of just the health of the stream, its ability to support these populations that are actually pretty crucial to the ecosystems there. So that will be an interesting thing to do next year, a partnership with Fish and Wildlife to kind of see where we're at as far as our fisheries are. There is some concern that some of the segments of each of those streams is a little disjointed, and just being able to see like those, how the populations are doing in each of those sections will be very interesting. So that was a good field trip. Today was my last official routine sampling event on Lake Quinsigamond. So twice a month I go out onto the lake into all the tributaries to take samples, and so this, the upper portion of this page has the latest water quality results from today. The surface temperature of the lake in the middle deepest parts, where I average the two temperatures, it's about 13.5 degrees Celsius or 56 degrees. So it is getting pretty chilly. The transparency is decreasing a little bit to 9.25 feet. How far down in the water you could see the actual clarity of the water has decreased a bit. And this is something that we are kind of expecting to happen this time of year as the lake starts to turn. If you look at the October profile below, you can see that, well, I guess you can't really compare to last month's, but the oxygen and the temperature drop off is happening deeper, meaning that there's more mixing going on in the lake, and so that's bringing up some nutrients from the bottom theoretically, and so that's perhaps causing the water to become a little bit less clear. We are seeing some signs of cyanobacteria actions. We haven't done any counts or anything, but I did see a few cyanobacteria in the sample today that are seen on the bottom there. So we're just gonna be keeping an eye on this. We do see some average total phosphorus numbers that are increasing a little bit from what we've seen earlier in the year. So you'll see the bottom line for surface total phosphorus has gone up to 0.019, which is higher than what we have seen all year. So this is something that, again, is kind of expected around this time of year, this phenomenon in deep lakes, but the extent to which it happens is something that we're really interested in keeping tabs on now. So another thing that I noticed, and I just wanted to bring to the attention of perhaps the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission, is that last photo in the upper right-hand side is the culvert going under, is it Lake, the Quinsigamond Road, the one that runs parallel on the Shrewsbury side, up from 9 to Main Street. That Billings Brook goes underneath. That culvert is completely blocked. It is blocked with debris and to the point where the flow is no longer able to get through it. And the water is getting pretty high and causing some flooding on that there. So if you can see in the cement wall there below it, there's just, it's covered with leaves, so it's hard to see the water, but it's just a pretty big blockage of leaves and dirt. And I didn't see any beaver activity, that doesn't mean it's not there. So that is that. Any questions on the lake report?
With the culvert under the, I guess at the Sisters of Notre Dame, is that?
Yes.
Yeah, so I noticed that the downstream part of that is a foot or so, or a couple of feet above the water. The picture I saw of it, I don't know, that could have changed, right? Where it's compromised, that's upstream, so it's going under the under the pipe there? Or?
So yeah, the pipe, around the pipe has been kind of eroded away, and
Yep.
even the bottom of the pipe.
Yep.
And so instead of coming through the pipe and dropping out through the pipe,
Yeah,
it's coming under the pipe and kind of just washing in.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the concern that the consultant.
Is there concern that the fish can't get back up there, or?
There's a little bit of concern for that. It's more the way that the pool is shaped. I am not as much of an expert in how the fish migrate up the stream
Okay.
or their habitat, but that was the concern that was expressed to me.
Okay, thanks. And on the mixing part of it, is that a seasonal thing, or is it like it's caused by the weather, because we're getting a whole bunch of, the last couple of weeks it's been raining and not raining and raining and not raining, so the lake is going up and down. There's
Right.
there's a lot of runoff, I guess is the bottom line there. So,
For sure, yes.
so is
And
that
so
affecting
that's
that, or is it-
something that I'll look at as I start looking at all this data, the days that it was raining, the days it was not. But in general, the turning of the lake is a seasonal thing that
Okay.
happens, just because the cooler water and as the water on top warms up, it's able to mix with the cooler water on the bottom again.
All right, so, okay, good. And I guess we'll figure out what's going on at Billings Brook. You didn't see any tires or anything like that, 'cause there was one time you saw the other stuff besides natural debris in there, yes?
Right, I am not, because it's actually, the water level is quite high because
Yeah.
it's been impounded.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it may be under there?
I imagine, I'm not sure if it was ever removed.
Okay, High water covers a lot of tires. Okay.
It wasn't, I have not, it was not
Alright.
to my knowledge. The other thing I wanted to say was, two quick things. We had our final cyanobacteria monitoring collaborative, back in September. It was a really successful season. We uploaded, we now, I think, as a group, have over 70 observations uploaded to this, worldwide database of cyanobacteria in the Worcester County area. We had some representatives from the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association. This report is here. You can see some of the cool things that they saw at Lake Quinsigamond and around the rest of Worcester County. And then I encourage everyone to come to it's a course that we're going to be giving on November 6th in Worcester. It's called Where the Storm Drain Ends, Worcester's Gray Infrastructure and Surface Water Quality. So this is a workshop that's being led by me and one of our engineers from the Stormwater Division at DPW. And what we're going to be talking about is just what really what's going on between the catch basin and the outfall. We're going to talk about CSOs and how those work and the treatment facilities we have and kind of the ins and outs of that in the combined sewer system. But for the rest of Worcester, that's mostly has this gray water infrastructure, why we need it, and then also we're going to have catchment maps that have all of the different, every catch basin in the city and where it connects to the different outfalls. So citizens could come and they could find their house on the map, find their nearest catch basin, figure out where their outfall is, and kind of start targeting those areas in their city where they think are like the most challenged as far as pollution in catch basins. They see catch basins that are overflowing, or maybe they've seen an outfall on the lake and they want to know what part of the city that links up to. So this is going to be a workshop for anyone who, I mean, obviously Worcester residents would have copies of the map. I do not have Shrewsbury's, but it's also just an exercise for anyone who's interested in doing like a stenciling program. It's really getting people ready to prioritize area for stenciling. That I know that some folks from the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association wanted to do. So this is kind of like an opportunity, not just for Lake Quinsigamond, but for all the watershed associations. There'll be food as well, so you can come and have a snack and get a map of your watershed.
We have like fish cakes.
Where is
There will
that?
be
What,
cookies.
you gave us a date, what time and where is it?
It's at 6:30, so it's November 6th at 6:30 p.m. at the Worcester IBEW, Local 96, so that's on 242 Mill Street. That's near Coes Reservoir.
Worcester IPW, right?
Yep, IBEW.
IPW, sorry.
Yep. So, and it's free.
IBW.
Yeah, Mill Street.
And so there are flyers up here. And yeah, this is, and it's a great opportunity to ask questions to the sewer engineers who work with this system every single day and do monitoring of it. So the reports are up here, the flyers up here. If there are any other questions, I'll be here.
All right, John, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Okay, discussion on rules for Lake Quinsigamond, which I actually meant to say, safety of Lake Quinsigamond, because I guess it's a broader brush. But before I do that, I want to go back just a second to some lake management things that I apologize because we have a report coming for Newton Pond and Hovey Pond that will show us all the stuff in there, and within that report, there'll be a recommendations of how we should, what we should pursue for treatments and management things. So that will be ready for the November meeting. So we'll have that there, and we can go through that for both those things, as well as kind of do a review of what we accomplished on the lake itself this year and what we need to do to move forward on that. So that's coming. I meant to mention that to you guys. So on to safety. We talked about improved, or up more law enforcement and more time on the lake for law enforcement. We have to figure out how we're going to do that. But that's one of the goals over the break is to see if we can get the parties together and sit down and figure out what, you know, what we can do to help you get that rolling. You know, because you got till March before you can like say I'm not doing anything about that. And
I'm pretty much wrapped up on law enforcement on the lake, because we're done for the year and we won't start again until next spring. But,
February, so you have whole another month, Roger. You're not getting out. Also, circle Roger's house,
yeah.
where storm drain is. So you just want to monitor that too.
So you don't monitor the figure skaters?
No?
Not too much.
Oh, you get figure skaters?
Figure skaters, no, I don't monitor that too much.
Okay, all right, fine. So, the other thing is that I would like to put buoys, we talked about this, I'm not really sure the best way, but in between, you know, at the narrow point there at Nelson Point, that really should be a no-wake zone there. You know what I'm talking about, where the little lighthouse thing is? And it's, you know, putting a buoy in the middle, I think, is probably gonna be more dangerous than not having it there. So that's probably not the best idea, but do you think there's a way we could put them on either side towards the shore? In the water? I mean, there's private property on one side and state property on the other, so I don't know if they're gonna let us put signs up or if anyone would read them, but they may see the buoy. And the reason I'm saying this is the one thing I did notice this year, that especially with the boats with the bigger wakes and going through there, and you can't see. I mean, that's literally an obstructed view. So it should be no wake on the face of it. You should never be towing anyone in there, because I don't believe there's an area that's 150 feet from shore if you're towing someone in a boat there. So I may be wrong, and we'll make sure we get a valid measurement of that. But if, you know, it's got to be very tight. You'd have to be in a very, you know, tight path to enable to pull that off.
We can take a look at it in the spring, take a ride down there. And
Yeah, so if you put on either side of it. And the other place that has been this is just a disaster waiting to happen, is under the Route 20 bridge coming out of Flint Pond. Because the jet skiers and our friends at Oak Island, they're going around that thing, and it's full blast. And it doesn't matter if there's someone in the, you know, if you're putting through there with your boat, they still go through it, full speed. So
that's something we'll have to address. I
Right.
can't access it,
I understood.
so we'll have to, I mean, we can go down and take a look at it,
Right.
if we have to do it, the smaller boat.
I get that, we have to figure that kind of stuff out, but the thing is, it's not marked, so even if you did stop someone, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, absent of the, because that's also an incredibly obstructive view right there, in both directions. You know, they're probably gonna go to court and say, well, there's no sign.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, it's gonna be for naught, so, you know, that's just, those are the two areas that stick out to me, so, to either put buoys there, or we get the DOT to put a, you know, to letter the bridge under there, because that's not our work, so, but have, you know, figure it out so we can do that. But that's my two things on safety. Any other concerns or questions?
Well, we have signs, Mr. Chair, on the Route 9 bridge. Seems to me there could be some signs that'll be up there permanently without having to, you know, maintain them in terms of putting them in and taking them out. If we put them on the post underneath the aforesaid Route 20 bridge. I mean, there's some concrete posts there, I believe.
No, that was the old
Okay.
Route 20. This is a modern span. There's
Well,
no
maybe
post
an
there.
outright
There's
post.
the abutments, but
Maybe an outright post with a sign that's permanent on both sides. But
there was one on there, and when they tore the old bridge down and put the new bridge up, which was what, after 30 years, how long ago was that? That was,
probably 10 or 15 years ago. or
no,
whatever.
it was more than that. But anyway, it was a long time ago, so they never put the sign back up.
Okay.
And I just never pursued it. All right, anything else? Okay, an update from the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association. Mrs. Collins.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Paula Collins for the Watershed. We had a cleanup on 10/17 from Brownie Beach to north of 290. Underpass, we had about 20 volunteers from EMC, they got about 79 bags of trash that the city removed for us. Also wanted to say thank you to Steve Cronin, Barb Kitcom, and Linda Sarkissian, who were also there as part of that cleanup. It was huge, so good teamwork, not a nice day to be out there. They muscled through and got us almost 80 bags of trash out. We have these very cool little new postcards, Learn About Your Lake, thanks to the Bancroft students. It's all about how to keep your lake cleaner. Has a challenge presented, and about litter, invasive species, and bacteria, and things you can do to help prevent those. Those are gonna be both here at Town Hall and at City Hall for people to pick up. And then our next meeting is at 6 o'clock here at Town Hall before the commission meeting. I think you may have already said that, on November 20th because of the holiday conflict. That's all we have.
No Marine Corps week meeting?
Nope, not this time.
Sorry to hear that.
Thanksgiving got in the way. Sorry.
Bummer. Okay, any questions, comments?
I wish there was a postcard passed out to each of the commissioners that really want to go all the way to the town hall to get it.
We can bring that at the next meeting.
I'm teasing.
We'll bring you multiple copies to give to your friends even.
We're planning on handing them out at the March meeting.
Here's an item.
February then, we'll get you a bundle.
Okay,
Pass out. Thank you.
perfect, thank you. Okay, no, well, we can if you want.
I may want one.
So, I guess we'll set the date for the next meeting,
Didn't we do that last month?
November
Set it
20th. We
at
did do
the
that, that's right, because we moved it up.
Did the last Wednesday.
That's why they changed the thing.
The two meetings will happen simultaneously?
One is at 6 and one is at 7.
Right, so the watershed will be at 6 and we'll start.
It's a lot to take in.
So next meeting, Mr. Chair, is Wednesday, November 20th at 7.
Right, for the Quinsigamond Commission, Lake Quinsigamond Commission, if you're interested in going to the
20th.
watershed meeting,
We're not
which
gonna
will
have
start
it
at
on
6
the
o'clock,
regular
so,
They-
in and out,
Because it's just before.
all good stuff. There's no beer
You
downstairs.
know,
so
I
that's-
remember the old days, we would sacrifice, we would have been here the day before Thanksgiving.
Okay, yeah, we're here the day before Halloween, and that's
I'm never gonna
that's
remember
important
this
too. All right, so, number 6, Roger, you wanna do the honors?
Make a motion that we adjourn, Mr. Chairman?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Be on the minutes now.